Hi Math 498, this is Dr. Thomas, and in this video I'm going to cover concepts from the Readiness Test 2. So the second Readiness Test in Math 498 at Lawson State Community College. And the concepts we will cover are adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing polynomials. Alright, so here is a sample test 2. And as you can see, we have the first problem asks to find the degree of the polynomial and determine whether it is a monomial, binomial, trinomial, or none of these. Then you're asked to add polynomials, subtract polynomials, multiply, and at the end divide. So this is how the readiness test will look for the second readiness test in Math 498. So expect to know these concepts. So if you having trouble with a particular concept, you need to practice that concept because it's on the test. Alright? So let's get started. I'm not going to go through all of these problems today. I will skip around, but let's start with number 1. Alright, number 1 is negative 10z to the 4th plus 5z cubed plus 9. So they're asking you to find the degree. So what is the definition of degree? It's the highest exponent, okay? In this case, it's the highest exponent because we only have one variable, z. So 4 is the degree. Now what's nice about this exam is, as you can see, you have multiple choice. Wonderful. So already we eliminated B and D as a possible answer because 4 is the degree. Alright? 4. Now you need to determine whether the polynomial is a monomial, binomial, trinomial, or none of these. A monomial has one term, binomial has 2 terms, trinomial has 3. Therefore, if you look at the polynomial here, you have 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms. So in all, we have 3 terms. So the answer for number 1 is A. Alright, let's look at number 2. It says add the polynomials. I'm thinking for the most part you understand how to add polynomials together. Just want to make sure you know, since there's a plus sign in between these parentheses, you have to add like terms. Alright, so this is not multiplication, this is addition. Alright, indicated by the instructions, add the polynomials. But even if it didn't say add the polynomials, you should know to add the polynomials. Why? Because there's a plus sign in between the parentheses. Alright, I'm skipping number 2 because I'm confident that you understand how to add like terms together. 7 plus 5, for example, 2 plus 5, 6 plus 5. Alright, let's move on. I would say, since number 3 and number 4 are both subtraction problems, let's just go ahead and go to number 4. Alright, so number 4 is subtraction. How do we know it's subtraction? Because there is a minus sign in between the 2 parentheses. So let's rewrite this problem and distribute, okay, this part. So let's rewrite it. We have 5x to the 7 plus 8x to the 4th y minus 13y squared. Now let's distribute. because this is sort of understood as a -1 times everything in this parenthesis. So we have minus 9x to the 7th plus, now, since negative times negative is positive, 13x to the 4th y. Then negative times another negative here would be positive 9y squared. Now, let's be careful. Make sure we get all our like terms together. 5x to the 7th minus 9x to the 7th. Make sure that you carry the sign that's in front of each term. So this is a positive 5 minus 9. Positive 5 minus 9, negative 4. Negative 4x to the 7th. Now we have a positive 8x to the 4th y and a positive 13x to the 4th y. That'll give us positive 21x to the 4th y. Lastly, we have a negative 13y squared plus 9y squared. Add those like terms together, you'll get negative 4y squared. So this is your answer. So we go back here. What is the answer for number 4? Be careful about these answer choices because they look very similar. So just because the first terms look like the answer, please be careful in deciding which answer choice is really the solution of the problem. Alright? So it looks like really what the answer should be is A. So always indicate A on the line. So that's what the lines are for. The lines are here for you to put the actual letter of the correct answer. Okay? So make sure you do that. Put the letter there. That'll help the instructors in grading your test. Alright, let's move on to number 5 now. Now we have a negative 12x squared right next to a parenthesis. So this is multiplying a monomial times a polynomial. So let's do number 5. Alright, so what we need to do for number 5 is multiply negative 12x squared times everything in this parenthesis. And then we'll have our answer. So let's get started with that. Negative 12x squared times 5x to the 7th. So I know that negative 12 times 5 is negative 60. Alright, now when we're multiplying variables, we add the exponents. So when we add 2 plus 7, we get 9. Again, we multiply negative x to the 2nd times 4x to the 6th. A negative times a positive, negative. So negative 48 x to the what? Alright, now we're adding a 2 plus a 6, x to the 8th. Next, negative 12x to the 2nd times negative 11. Negative 12 times negative 11. Positive 132. And of course we have that x squared there that we have to write down as well. What's great about the test is that you get to have a calculator, so don't forget to bring your calculator on test day. Alright, so you won't make simple mistakes with multiplication. So for number 5, which letter should we choose? So it looks like we need to choose C. C. Alright? Moving on. Now, if we look at number 6, we have a binomial times a binomial. When you have a binomial times a binomial, we do a little something called the FOIL, which means we just multiply 3y times everything in the second parenthesis, and we turn around and multiply negative 10 times everything in the second parenthesis, and then we add our like terms. So I'm not going to go over that one because there is a similar problem for number 7. So I'm going to do number 7 instead because it's one of those special cases that I really want to go over. As you can see, if you look at number 7, what's interesting is you have P in the first position of each parenthesis, and you have a 10Q here. The only difference is there's a plus sign in one parenthesis and a minus sign in the other. Different signs. So this is a special case. Whenever this happens, the middles will always cancel out. So let me show you what I mean about that. Alright, so let's FOIL now. So FOIL, if you didn't know already, FOIL, F-O-I-L, really just stands for first, outer, inner, last. Not really necessary that you know that. As long as you know you have to use the distributive property. So we're going to multiply P times everything in parentheses first. Alright, so P times P is P squared. P times a negative 10Q is negative 10 QP or PQ. Whatever you decide, it's still the same, okay? PQ. Then we're going to multiply 10Q times everything in the parentheses. So 10Q times P is positive 10PQ. 10Q times negative 10Q is a negative 100 Q squared, because we have Q times Q and the exponents are 1, right? So we got to add those together. Now, do you notice what happens? These are like terms, but one is negative, one is positive. Essentially, why does it cancel? Because of that positive and that negative. Here we got a negative and a positive. The middles will always cancel out in a situation like this. So the final answer is P squared minus 100 Q squared. This is referred to as a difference of squares, which you will get really acquainted with once you start factoring. So the answer for number 7, alright, what is the answer? It looks like the answer is D. Alright, so make sure you always put your answers on the line, your letters. Alright, let's move on. Number 8, of course, that's a binomial times a binomial again. So what you're going to do is you're going to end up foiling and putting your answer in descending order. So I may need to do that, right? Because you may not know what I mean about descending order. So negative 5 times negative 7, that will give you a positive 35. Negative 5 times x will give you a negative 5x. X times a negative 7, negative 7x. X times x will give you an x squared. So now, when I write this in descending order, I want the term with the highest exponent first. So x squared, then I have these like terms here, negative 12x plus 35. So it looks like the answer is B. Alright, is that right? Is it B? So be very, very careful. These answers look so much alike. So you don't want to rush through this test. Make sure you're choosing the right answer. Alright, let's move on to number 9. Number 9, 10x minus 1 squared. Definitely need to go over this because sometimes people confuse number 9 with number 7. And that is not what you need to do. 10x minus 1 squared. So what is it saying? Write 10x minus 1 2 times first. So when you get a situation like this, I need you to write it twice. Alright? So when you have something squared, write it twice. So this is really 10x minus 1 times 10x minus 1. That's a binomial times a binomial. What I want you to do is FOIL this, because this is not the same situation as number 7. Why? Because we have the same negative sign here. Nothing's going to cancel out in this situation. So make sure you write it twice and FOIL everything out. 10x times 10x, 100x squared. 10x minus times a negative 1, negative 10x. Okay? Then negative 1 times 10x minus 10x. Negative 1 times negative 1, positive 1. So final answer, 100x squared minus 20x plus 1. So which answer choice should we choose? Is it A or is it C? They look so similar, but I think C is going to make it.